Sometimes you think you're smart, but you're actually not. This is a story about the time that I almost drowned and I thought I was actually a good swimmer. So I guess I must have been about 5 years old. And I went to this park in the South Bronx with my father and a couple of cousins. And all of my cousins were older than I was by like 6 or 7 years. So they could all swim. They were all jumping off the diving board, doing backflips into the pool, all this kind of cool stuff. And so I was thinking, yeah, I'm just as good as they are. I could swim in this big old pool with a 16-foot depth, you know? And so at some point, you know, they had lifeguards all around the pool. It was pretty safe relatively compared to today, where you go to all these places and they're always like, no lifeguard on duty. You're all on your own. If that had been today, I would be dead, right? So anyway, all my cousins are diving off this diving board, and I go and I get online to jump off the diving board. And the lifeguards are like, nah, you too small, little man. You can't use the diving board. And I'm like, what do you mean? Let me use the diving board. They're like, nah, you can't use the diving board. So I'm jumping in the pool. I'm all upset. I'm thinking about how can I get myself onto that diving board. And at one point, nobody was on the diving board and the lifeguards weren't around. So I climbed out the pool. I go and I get on the diving board and I jump off the diving board into the 16-foot depth water. And so I start swimming, and I noticed like swimming, I felt like I was going underwater deeper and deeper, but I kept getting closer and closer to the wall where the ladder was, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I'm not that far away from that ladder. I'll make it, I'll make it. And then the next thing I know, I start hearing like whistles and stuff, right? But I keep swimming towards my ladder. I'm thinking everything's cool. Meanwhile, as I'm swimming towards this ladder, I keep going further and further down. So like the ladder is now getting above my head, like above my sight, So I'm going downwards, but I'm working towards that ladder. And so the next thing I know, I hear like all these, like whistle sounds, like faint whistle sounds. And before I know it, I start seeing all these guys jumping in the water over my head, like diving into the water, And so one of them grabs me by my neck, and then he starts pulling me out of the water. And I start like wrestling with him, like, yo, get off me. What are you doing, So they pull me out of the water and they get me out the pool, stand me up, and they're like, yo, you all right? You all right? I'm like, yeah.
I'm a specimen of human movement.
So it's like whatever little kid version of that is. But I was basically saying, I'm fine. I don't know what you're doing, I wasn't coughing. I hadn't swallowed any water, anything like that. I guess they figured this guy is not swimming to that. Like, he's not going to make it to that ladder. He'll drown before he reaches that ladder, And anyway, it was probably because of my size and the fact that they had told me, don't jump off the diving board. And so they saw me deep in the water.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
So then there I am in front of my whole family. Of course, all the families together at that particular moment. And they're all standing above me looking at me like, what are you doing? And they were like, yo, he was about to drown. We had to get him out the water, keep him out the water, all this, that, and the other thing. And then, for like years, I just thought to myself, was I actually going to drown? Was I actually going to drown? But when you stop to think about it, a kid who's like 5 years old has no business being in 16-foot depth water, right? Jumping off of a diving board when nobody's watching, right? So the moral of the story is, don't outwit yourself thinking you're more capable than you are.